Family violence is the key driver of homelessness in Australia. Our dominant responses to domestic and family violence involve separating the perpetrators and the victims. These models vary, but we can refer to them broadly as welfare approaches. Welfare approaches generally respond through forms of crisis and homeless accommodation, and they usually involve women and children moving from a violent situation and then into homelessness. The village model turns this upside down.
The village model really came about from my background in working in the social industry, especially up in the Torres Strait. And there's been for a long time the real struggle to deal with the needs of families, but especially up on the Torres Strait, where it's all about island communities right across a big region. So when you look at the main administrative place being Thursday Island, to manage the issues that come out from all the outer island communities was such a big task to take on. When we talk about access, Thursday Island's such a long way away. The community organisations on Thursday Island was more about bringing in the resources, whether it be counselling or anything like that. We had to do something different. And what I sort of really wanted to look at is that instead of we sit and wait for clients to come to us, we need to be able to go to them. We need to come up with a model that says, okay, follow me into the communities. Instead of we sit here and tick boxes for you in funding agencies and ticking all these boxes saying we've seen so many clients, but if no one comes to us, then the organisation's failing.
The village model intervenes so as to create an environment for families and communities that are embedded within to exercise power required to address the root causes.
Every island too is different. They've got their own separate cultural ways of dealing with issues. So instead of we have one model that sits on TI, on Thursday Island, that everyone has to conform to, it's like taking a round peg and trying to force it into a triangular hole. It doesn't fit. So let's go the other way around. Let's set up communities on the islands where communities, you know your own cultural structures, you know your family responsibilities. How do we put that power back to you? How do we as the organisation now assist you as a family to look after your women, the development of your men, the safety of your children?
The village model assumes that our current approaches to domestic and family violence and our responses to families experiencing homelessness subsequent to violence inadvertently disempowers the families.
Because this world really looks at the empowerment of safety of children by building safe houses outside of the communities. It's fine that we're protecting our children, but we're disconnecting them again. When we look at the whole process of colonisation, we're doing it again. We're disconnecting our families. So that whole mentality of children being taken away is still continuing. So somehow we've got to change the whole focus and make the child's bedroom back at home become its original safe house. Now to do that takes a lot of courage. But if you're seen as, my father and my uncles, they're all perpetrators, then the club of responsibility being passed on is one of a negative one, So we've really got to pick up that responsibility to say, look, come on fathers, uncles, elders, that responsibility we're passing, the power that we're passing on is one of positive strength.
By responding to the complex problems with welfare approaches, individuals, families and communities are disempowered. Their capacity to make change in this situation is removed, and instead power is redirected toward government agencies, authorities, and indeed welfare agencies that have the formal mandate to assist. So how can we have the power to influence positive change in policy relating to complex issues such as domestic violence and homelessness?
Now that's the same thing for me now when I talk about fire and water. It's the responsibility or the power of what a father can do for the development of the child, you know, and the whole responsibility of what a mother does in the development of that child. So that was the traditional sort of philosophy and the thinking back then. It's how you balance it. Now we've got shelters for women, and what do the men say? My only shelter is a jail. So if we're going to be true and real about social development in Indigenous communities, we've got to go back to the real source and how we get the family unit back together. So that I think is the crux of the underlying reason behind the village model.
The village model introduces different strategies to tackle the problems of violence in their community, but it does so without further disempowering the members of the community themselves.
The village model is more about getting a community organisation now, through a community organisation becoming like a hub now for government agencies to come in. And when you're dealing with families now, you come through a community organisation. That organisation now works with families. So you've got separate village committees. A village committee could be made up of a particular, for example, Logan. The Logan area is such a multicultural area. So one village committee could look after, for example, all the Aboriginal communities, Aboriginal families. Another village committee would look after separately is the Torres Strait families. Another village committee will bring all the Sudanese families together. Another one will bring all the Samoan families, all the Tongan families, and all the families, all the cultures that are represented in the region. If we bring all them together, then they can support each other, because they all have cultural ways of their own spin on how to look after a family, how to develop their children. We understand that you've got a culture that has stood the test of time, a very long time, even though it's come from another country. But we're here to work with you to help you develop your family under the Australian context now. So that family now can work in partnership with other families. And because of intermarriages, then the whole Logan area can become one village, because it takes a whole village to raise a child. You know, it also takes a whole village to support each other to get rid of bad attitudes.
This shows that the power to change, it lies in all of us. We have to take the responsibility for our actions, however harmful they may be, in order for us to all address domestic violence and the complexities of homelessness that often result.